So when one's body does weird things, and you're just doing that. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. Weird things like when it's not performing like it usually does, and there's maybe
Mm.
pain or difficulties to estimate what the body can do or not. Um, how to transcend that into Krishna consciousness, because I'm struggling with it right now, especially when it
Mm.
hurts. And I wanted to see what your experience is with,
Mm.
and any ideas of how to talk to me about it.
Mm.
You know, that
Mm.
that small me, what is not very Krishna conscious, and who goes like, eh.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I think the way you said it before was how to transcend, right? How to transcend our physical suffering and
Yes, yes.
challenges that we face. Yeah. Oh, the first thing you when you asked me that, because you're asking like for my like personal experience and how I do that, my first thought was, well, I'm not at that level yet. I'm not at that level being able to transcend these things. And
Oh
um
dear.
but I think what we have to do is keep things in perspective, right? And I think sometimes the best that we can do is just ride things out, and that's also okay. You know, that going through that experience, is purifying, is humbling, right? We're it's humbling to realize that we're not Krishna conscious, actually. It's humbling to realize that we can't transcend these things, and realizing our limitations. It's very conducive to our sharanagati, to our surrender, right? We realize our helplessness, right? I mean, I can say in the challenges like that I body challenges I face, it's made me feel extreme helplessness, and realize how dependent we are, actually. That, really nothing moves without the will of the Lord. Nothing is possible without the will of the Lord. It's very easy when we're very fit and strong to think that that's because of our own strength, our own power, right? But when we experience some challenge in that department, then we realize, oh, actually, we can't do anything. Everything is coming by the Lord's will and by the Lord's energy, right? And so I can't say that I can transcend it, but I can see how going through that experience is actually helpful ultimately. It's humbling, it's pushing us more to take shelter of the Lord. And then also the other thing is that whatever we're going through, we have to keep it in perspective, right? That we may feel sometimes, oh, I'm at death's door, or, oh, this is so difficult. But we have to keep that larger perspective, right? That ultimately this is just a part of the covering, right? I'm just living on the covering of the mind and the body and the senses, and that's why I'm experiencing this. And that ultimately we're not here just to like fight with all of that, right? Like there was one comment of Srila, I'm trying to remember, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there was an article of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it's called Problems and Solutions. And he discussed this point there. And Saraswati Thakur, now I remember, it was a famous set of instructions that Saraswati Thakur gave. It was about a week before he left the world, and he gave some very profound advices at that time. But one of the things that he said was that in this world, we're constantly faced with problems, right? And there's a tendency to live in this mindset, like troubleshooting, you could say. Like, oh, I didn't have enough money. I don't have enough money. Okay, I got to get a job with more money. Okay, check that off the list. Oh, I'm overweight. Okay, I'm going to get an exercise program. Okay, check that off the list. Oh, I don't have enough friends. I'm going to join a local club. Let me check that off the list, right? Or my mom's sick. I'm gonna help her get better. Check. Like there's a tendency to kind of live in this state of troubleshooting, right? Like the environment sending us all these challenges, and we're, you know, every day we're faced with different levels of challenges, right? And there's a tendency to kind of just operate in that mode of dealing with the challenges. And so this was this very wonderful comment of Saraswati Thakur. I really appreciate that he said that we're not here to solve problems. Like we're constantly going to be confronted with problems, but that's not the purpose of our existence, you know, to just solve problems. But we're here to begin living our eternal life, right? We're here to begin living. That is the treasure of this human body, right? And this human consciousness that we have, that we can actually start to think about our eternal existence and our eternal purpose. And so like you could say, like on the front burner or on the back burner, we're ideally our spiritual cultivation will always be on the front burner, but often it's on the back burner, right? But we want to keep it on one of the burners at least. But then, so like on one level, we're dealing with these complexities. We're dealing with, you know, health issues or money issues or whatever it may be. That may be on the front burner, right? But we want to keep in the back of our minds, that's not really what I'm here for, right? I'm really here to solve the problem of my non-Krishna consciousness, right? I'm here to solve the problem of not, you know, drowning in divine love at every moment, right? I'm here to solve the problem that when I chant the name, I don't faint in ecstasy. Like those are the real problems, you know, that I'm not remembering Krishna at every moment, you know, that I'm not ecstatic to serve the Vaishnavas at every moment. Those are the real problems, right? And so we want to keep that, as I said, on the front burner, or if not there, at least on the back burner. We want to keep that in the back of our minds, that like I'm not just here, you know, to solve my body issues or my mind issues or my housing issues or whatever, but this is really what I'm here for, right? And we want to keep in mind, we've been cycling through this whole show, we don't know for how many lifetimes, right? Sometimes rich, sometimes poor, sometimes happy, sometimes successful, sometimes unsuccessful. Sometimes we've probably all been, you know, the Queen of Sheba at some point. And we've all been a bum on the street. You know, we've been there, done that. We've done everything, right? So like whatever we're facing now, you know, we've already dealt with that in so many other lifetimes, or we had better circumstance or whatever, but that's not a factor actually. All of that's just going to play out according to our karma. It's going to play out in one way or another. But really the real thing that we're here for is to increase our Krishna consciousness, to increase our Krishna consciousness. I had this really beautiful talk with my mother a few days ago, and she was saying, you know, everything that I do in my day is just to get in 6 minutes of listening to Gurudev. I love that. It's like on my work and my health stuff and my studies and my sadhana, it's all just so I can get in 6 minutes of listening to Gurudev. Like that's what it's all for, you know. And she was saying like that's the only purpose of our of this life, that we can move forward a little bit in our Krishna consciousness, that we can go forward a little bit. That's the only reason that we're here for, right? And so whatever circumstances we're in, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, we want to keep that in mind, right? That we're not here to solve this problem or that problem, but we're here to increase our Krishna consciousness. And as much as possible, we want to capitalize on our circumstances in such a way that they do increase our Krishna consciousness. And this is what's so beautiful. We had this really nice talk yesterday at one program, and I was saying, I was starting, oh, that's right. Somebody asked me about what was the significance of Krishna, of how Krishna appears at 12 midnight, right? And Ramachandra appears at 12 noon. And she was saying, oh, is there some significance on the number 12, you know? And I said, well, Ramachandra appearing at noon, we can understand. Noon is considered a sacred hour, noontime. And that's a very auspicious time. And many avatars, they appear at noontime. But Krishna is a little crooked. Krishna appears at midnight. That's not an auspicious hour. That's like the time for ghosts and witches and goblins. That's like the time for Lord Shiva's dark associates. That's their hour. Like anyone who appears at midnight, that's it's a little unfortunate. So what Krishna, he chooses to appear at midnight, very inauspicious hour, and he appears in a prison cell, for goodness sake. The supreme absolute Lord, he chooses to appear in a prison cell. Like what does that tell you? Like don't get stuck on what's going on the surface, and things may not be what they seem, right? So don't become a slave to your circumstances, right? And in Krishna's case, it's all his Leela, right? Krishna likes to confuse people. Krishna likes to bewilder people. Krishna, I like how Surya says, Krishna is a crooked God. We don't know what he's gonna do. He can really mess up your life. But what he's giving you is something on a much deeper level, right? What he's giving you is something on a much deeper level, the plane of the heart, right? And he's connecting us. He is connecting us with the nirguna plane, the transcendental plane. It's completely beyond the saguna plane and anything of this world, right? And so we really have to think about that, right? That we identify with our circumstances, but that's because of our conditioning, because we're bound up in the world of the body and mind. But we don't have to. Like, we have a choice, actually. We have a choice. We have a choice. And now, according to our previous karma, we're locked into a particular type of conditioning, but we can choose to start moving away from that, right? We can choose to not identify with our current circumstances. We can choose to not identify with our current body and so on, right? That's just on the surface, right? So, we may not be at that level of being able to transcend, but we want to keep things in perspective, right? We have a choice there. We can't choose our experience. Our experience is due to our current consciousness. We can't change that, right? If we are suffering because of a body condition or mental condition, we may not be able to just snap our fingers and change that, but we can choose to keep it in perspective and see it for what it is, right? We can see it for what it is and understand that that's not the real issue here, right? That's not the real issue. And, another thing, we were talking about this today, like our real mode of living is praying for Krishna's mercy, right? We are waiting for mercy. That is how the devotees live. They're just waiting for Krishna's mercy, right? And so whatever circumstances we're in, we can, as I mentioned before, we can try to capitalize on them, so that we are in a better position to receive mercy. So if we are in difficult circumstances, we're suffering, oh Krishna, look, I am so helpless. I'm suffering. Please help me. Krishna is supposed to give more mercy to those who are in trouble. So Krishna, please give me your mercy. And we can, they use this expression like owning something, like own the suffering. Like own it, what you're going through. It's okay. This is what I'm going through, and this is going to make me more humble, right? This is going to help me. Right? We don't have to be a victim of those circumstances. This is wonderful, actually. Now I'm really going to feel my level of helplessness. Wow, Krishna, thank you. Thank you for showing me how dependent I actually am, right? And so in that way, we can capitalize on that. And then when we're in better health, we can also capitalize on that. Or we have better circumstances. We can use our health, we can use our money, for more service, for more Krishna conscious practice, more sadhana, more seva, more association, and so on. So this is, this was the point of connection, right? How this is what's so beautiful about Krishna consciousness, that it doesn't depend on any particular set of circumstances, right? But we can use everything in our favor. Even what is apparently unfavorable, we can use that in our favor. Srila Sridhar Maharishi, he uses that example of the martial art jujitsu, where there's some special technique where you use the strength of the opponent, you use the strength of your opponent against them, right? And so in the same way, like in our cultivation of Krishna consciousness, we can try to, whatever is coming at us, we can switch it around. Like we have a choice, right? We have a choice. And then, as I said, we're playing the mercy game, right? And so we can feel within ourselves, oh, I'm living in illusion, right? I'm living in this with this mundane vision. But Krishna, I'm waiting for the day, right? Or Nityananda Prabhu, more specifically, I'm waiting for the day when you'll remove that covering of Maya, right? I'm waiting for that day. You're keeping me by your own will, for your own purpose and for my purification. You're keeping me in this mundane illusion, or according to my karma and so on. I'm wrapped up in this web of illusion. But I'm waiting for the day when you'll remove that cover, right? I'm waiting for when that mercy will come, right? And for now, I have to ride it out. For now, I have to go through this experience for my own purification, due to my own karma, and so on, right? It is there to help me within the bigger picture of things, right? In the bigger picture of things. So in this way, we can try to use everything in our favor and maintain our feeling of dependence on our guardians, our divine guardian. That is the main thing, actually. Marobi, Rakobi, Jo Icha Tohara. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's beautiful song, right? Whether you embrace me, right, or whether you keep me or whether you harm me, right? You are still my Lord, right? This brings us to the highest level of surrender, right? Oh Krishna, you may give me a rainy day, you may give me a sunny day, but you're still my beloved, right? You're still the only one for me. In other words, unconditional love, right? That's ultimately the highest goal of our life, to reach that point. Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotion, that you can do whatever you like with me, but my love for you is not based on any conditions. You are still the only one for me. You may remember me, you may forget me, you may give me trouble, you may give me joy, but you're still my Lord. I'm still in that mode, waiting for your mercy. I'm always waiting for your mercy. We want to go deeper and deeper with that conception, with that mood, with that feeling, right? And in that way, we may even feel sometimes, oh, what a privilege, right? That I can experience some trouble and yet affirm my faith even more. Nothing is outside of Krishna. Nothing is outside of our Krishna consciousness. We want to go to that, go deeper and deeper, right, into that type of faith. So those are my thoughts.
Hare
And yes,
Krishna, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I really like to take that whole, how we problem solve around when we are uncomfortable, when we don't want something, when we reject it, don't like it, just problem solve it away, and instead of turning that into, oh, thank you, Krishna, you're giving me this, and I failed to see that this is just the right thing. And now I feel like I have a better idea to adjust my prayer, like help me how to see how good this is for me. instead of make it go away, because that's not
Hmm.
very Krishna conscious.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for your share, for your words.
Yeah, and I
Hare
liked
Krishna.
something you said too in your message about how, well, you also brought it up here, and like there's this tendency to kind of just fixate on fixing it, right? And I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been there, you know, there can be an obsession with that. Oh, I just need to fix this, right? And everything's okay. But I mean, yeah, I talked about that a little at the beginning as well, that problem solving mood.
Yeah,
But
and that
yeah,
keeps us in that do mode
mm,
of, or like, like it's very rajastic,
right, right, right,
and
right.
I haven't been really sitting with it in a sattvic mode or in a nirguna mood. I mean, I don't have that yet. But yeah, I'm a little bit between those modes of either troubleshooting, like you called it, or ignoring it also, like, oh, I'll take a
Mm,
painkiller. It's like
mm.
tamaguna. So maybe I'll have a whole new sattvic way to sit with it.
I mean, you know, we don't want to push ourselves too much. I don't mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a painkiller if you need to. Don't want to go too extreme. I mean,
Oh,
according,
good. Because I remember you, Vishaka Didi, saying like, I'm not taking a painkiller. I have a bad headache. And I was like, oh dear, why not? But you did it.
yeah, but I mean, in your case, like, you know, I mean, it depends on the severity of it, right? Um, but if it's like you can't walk properly, then, you know, we have to be practical too.
Jai.
I love how you always bring it back to practicality, Vishaka, because it is, I think I remember you saying one time, like, we have to realize we're still in the material body and we're still in the material world, and we have these gunas and we have these, these just sufferings and these things because of those different things, and to give ourselves some kind of grace, with a balance of it all, and not try to be this
Mm,
transcended divine creature that's immortal and doesn't feel pain or
yeah,
anything. And
yeah.
so I really love how you always bring it back to practicality, because we are still here in this material body and form. And
Mm,
yeah, so I'm grateful for all of those insights. Thank you.
mm. Thank you for sharing that, Dana. And I really feel like that's important what you said, and I feel like Srila Govinda Maharaj, that was something that he also taught us, you know, that and I think like the main thing I would say about this, like the most important thing in this whole discussion is that we keep perspective, right? Like, so like for example, if we like draw a little diagram, like we say, okay, I'm here and I understand like the highest vision is up here, but I'm here right now. So okay, maybe I'll stretch a little bit to be up here. Right? You know, like we can't artificially jump to, as you said, like, and think we're some divine person, you know, who could be on such a high level. But we can understand what divine vision is. We can say, okay, this is divine vision. This is what I idealize and what I worship, and maybe one day in many lifetimes I'll be there. But I'm at this level right now, and this is what works for me. This is what I'm able to do right now. But I'm worshiping that up there, and that, like, just that is so valuable. Like, just to be able to appreciate what is the ideal. You know, like sometimes I've had experiences, it's almost like a type of ego that we can have where we take it as an attack. Like, if so, like for example, oh, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he didn't even allow Gurudev to exercise. Like when our Gurudev joins the mat, Srila Sridhar Maharaj didn't even allow him to exercise. That's how strict he was. And I remember I mentioned that to someone once, and they felt like it was a personal attack. Like, oh, like my exercise program is important to me. Like, what's wrong with exercise? And I'm like, that's okay. Like, go on with your exercise. Like, let's just celebrate who Srila Sridhar Maharaj is. Like, he's so detached from this world. For him, exercise is like not even a thing. Like, so he told Gurudev, just do gardening. You know, you can exercise while you're doing gardening for the deities, you know. Like, that was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's level. He was so strict. He didn't allow, Srila Sridhar Maharaj didn't even allow devotees to sit and read in their room, to read scripture in their room. Like, that was Maya for him. Like, go, why are you sitting in your room reading? Go do some seva. You know, that's Srila Sridhar Maharaj's level. But then are we supposed to like imitate that? No, go, you should go read a book, you know, go read Sartre Shri Krishna or whatever, you know, like that's good for you. Better than playing video games, right? I'm speaking totally rhetorically here, you know, hypothetically, in general. So yeah, it's like, you know, it's really, really valuable, really precious to understand like where we are. This is part of Sambandha Gyan, like understanding how we fit into the whole picture, right? So we worship Srila Sridhar Maharaj, we worship the 6 Goswamis, we worship Srila Govinda, all these great Vaishnavas have this high level of devotion. We worship that, we celebrate that. But it's also okay that we're not there. Like, let's just celebrate. But why do we need to be in the picture at all? Why does everything have to be relative to me? Like, why does it all have to come back to me? Let's just celebrate who they are. And then understand what our level is and what we can do, right? And Srila, as I said, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he really, I feel he really taught that in a very beautiful way. And you know, one example that comes to mind right now, there are so many, but the most prominent one I always remember, it was one devotee, one sannyasi. This was in the 80s, and we won't, because we're being recorded, we won't go into names and everything. But he kind of he'd come to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He was in USA. But he kind of was a little provocative of another organization, and they also were, how can we say, they were not in the right, and they actually began threatening him. You know, I mean, it got a little serious, and to the point that he started carrying a gun around, like for protection. And then you know, he at some point he visited India, Navadvip, and he met Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he told him about what had happened, and he mentioned, oh, and I've started carrying a gun for my protection. You know, probably thinking, you know, he's doing a very intelligent thing. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj was actually upset with him, and he said, you know, this is not Vaishnavism. You know, Vaishnavism is to be more humble than a blade of grass, right? And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj told him, you should go and give that gun to your enemies. Like, that's Srila Sridhar Maharaj's level. You know, just like Haridas Thakur is being beaten in the marketplaces, and then Haridas Thakur has mercy on the people beating him, because they're going to get in trouble if they can't kill him. So Haridas Thakur is feeling sorry for them, so he pretends to be dead, and then they throw his body in the river, right? That's Haridas Thakur. That's Srila Sridhar Maharaj's level, very high level of Vaishnavism. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj told that to this sannyasi, oh, you should go and give your gun to your enemy that you're afraid of, and that sannyasi was shocked. And then he left the room just in this state of shock. He's going down the stairs. And then our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, comes running after him. And he tells him, Maharaj, you don't have to do that. He says, you know, Guru Maharaj's level is very high. You know, you don't have to do that. And I appreciate that so much, you know, that like just having that clarity within ourselves. Oh, this is where I am, and this is what's appropriate for me. Because it's actually not helpful if we try to imitate a level of faith that we're not actually at. We'll damage ourselves, actually. We'll end up damaging ourselves. So we have to have some clarity about that, right? And you know, that's real, right? That's real. And you know, we have to remember, like, we're on what's it called, the long road, the slow game. So we have to prepare, you know. We want this to be sustainable, right? Not just for this year, not just for the next 10 years, not just for this lifetime, but for the next 100,000 lifetimes. We have to think like that. And then it may be appropriate for us to just take baby steps, right? Or may just be appropriate for us to worship the Vaishnavas who are doing it, right? And that's wonderful too. So anyway, thanks for adding that, Dana. And welcome, Jadu Gopal Prabhu is tuning in from Ireland.
Dandavat, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat. I love the Irish idyllic scene you've got on your image there. I do have another question. Someone actually sent me, it was like a few weeks ago. Let me just look it up. And I told them I'd talk about it in our next meeting. And someone was saying that they heard that it's better not to meditate on the form of Krishna. However, I find it very comforting and I keep gravitating towards it and find the most emotional engagement there. Because of that, and I know we want to keep our minds trained on devotion, I keep thinking how I can do it without being offensive. Even if it is not ideal, as long as I'm not offensive, I want to think of Krishna as an image in my mind. What I've heard, it was one comment of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he advised that not like to sit and stare at the deity while we're chanting japa. That was one, we hear that was one comment of Srila Saraswati Thakur. And he said, because our senses are like vultures. And so whatever our senses see, they want to devour that as their food, right? And so, you know, so in that example, chanting japa, you're staring at the deity and then it becomes an exercise of the eyes, right? And then you're focused on, rather than, you know, like in this state of prayer and inviting the grace of the holy name, it can turn into an exercise of the senses, staring at the form of Krishna, which actually we cannot see with these mundane eyes, right? This was a comment of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And you know, we also hear advices, right, that when we stand before the deity, we want to be more in the mindset of being seen, right? That to have that awareness that actually we're not able to see the deity, but we want to be seen. That because we don't have the eyes to see them, but if they will give us their glance, you know, they can purify us, right? And then there are also there was another nice comment of Saraswati Thakur saying that the real vision of the deity comes through the ears, right? Through hearing proper conception, then we can, then gradually proper realization and vision can grow from that, right? So that was another comment. But then I would say, I mean, from how this devotee has said this, it sounds like they're aware of this, right? But at the same time, they can't deny that they get some inspiration from that. And I would say, and this is also in line with what we were just discussing, that like as long as we're keeping perspective, it's fine, right? It's all about perspective. And because actually this is one reason why the Lord appears in the form of the deity. It's because we need that eye experience. And so it's a very merciful manifestation of the Lord to help us, right? We're on the level of the senses, and so the Lord is mercifully appearing in this form that can be perceived by our senses, right? And so this form of the deity, actually, there are two levels in which the deity is engaging, right? On one level, for the highest level devotees, for the Mahabhagavat devotees, like they're directly seeing Krishna, right? They're directly. Oh, here's Part. Maybe you can say hello. His baby Part here, and his lovely mother Vilasin. Hello, Part. Say hello. Look, these are all of our friends around the world. Maybe you'll get to meet them in person one day. So for the Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, like when they look at the deity, they're having a direct loving relationship. Right? They're not just seeing a statue, right? But they're directly seeing, Brajendra Nandan Krishna Vrindavan. And we hear many examples, many leelas of the great devotees having direct exchange with the Lord, right? Speaking with the deity, right? Chastising the deity even in some cases, So they're not just seeing the statue, right? And we saw that also with our Gurudev and also Srila Sridhar Maharaj. They had this type of relationship with where we saw that they had very personal feeling about the deities. Like Gurudev would be concerned that the garland wouldn't be too heavy or cold, right? He was concerned about that. Gurudev liked that there would be a night light for the deities. When somebody asked Sridhar Maharaj, oh, is it okay to put, often in our temples, they're putting these strings, right? And so that it's more attractive to our vision, and Krishna's shawl is hung very nicely. And someone asked Sridhar Maharaj about that, and he said, what if Krishna wants to go dancing in the nighttime? Like they have this very personal feeling about the deities. So in their case, that's their reciprocation for the deities, with the high, that's their like high level engagement, connection with the deities. And Saraswati Thakur, somebody asked him once, because they were puzzled on this point, because normally we think of deity worship as more for beginner devotees, and deity worship involves a lot of ritual, right? And there's archan, the puja, and there's there's so many like very specific things that are meant to be followed in the worship of the deity. And somebody asked Saraswati Thakur once, like, why did Rup and Sanatan, right, these great devotees, they all had their personal deities? And he said, they asked Saraswati Thakur, why did they do archan? Like why did they do this type of worship? And Saraswati Thakur said, no, they're not doing archan. Archan means like, specific, rituals, offerings, puja, all these very specific practices for the deity. But Saraswati Thakur said, no, they're not doing archan. They're doing direct bhajan, means direct service. They're directly serving Krishna in front of them and having a living relationship with him. They're not, oh, it's time to make the boga offering, the lunch offering to the deity. It's 12 o'clock. And oh, I got to ring the bell and chant this mantra. That's not what they're doing. They're like, here, Krishna, eat up. Time to eat. Or you want some salt? Get your own salt. That's how Sanatana Goswami is talking to his Madan Mohan deity. Krishna says, oh, can you at least give me a little salt? No, you get your own salt. You're the Supreme Lord. Get it yourself. Like, that's how they're engaging with the deity, right? So that's one level. But then the other aspect of the Archa Vigraha, this is the manifestation of the deity, this type of manifestation known as Archa Vigraha. Then the other aspect of that is it's like a special blessing for the neophyte devotees, for the beginner devotees, persons in mundane consciousness like ourselves, that because we don't have the eyes to see, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasa Daiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achinchu Ganasa Rupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? This is Brahma Samhita verse. The great sadhus, they have their eyes anointed with the salve of prema, divine love, and they're always seeing that Achintya, beautiful, inconceivable form of Shama Sundar Krishna. Right? We're not on that level, right? And so we don't have that vision. We don't have that spiritual vision. We don't have that loving eye, right? So how merciful is the Lord? He descends into the plane of our sense experience so we can have some perception of him. So then the deity is actually for that. It is a very merciful manifestation for us, right? And then it's also the worship of the deity. It helps us to get away from our body consciousness, right? Like instead of being fixated on decorating our own bodies, we can think, oh, how can I decorate the deity? I can offer jewelry to the deity, the hair of the deity, the dress of the deity, right? Many devotees, they get so much inspiration from that. Like instead of thinking about my own hair and jewelry and whatever, I can think about that of the deity, right? So it's like a way of transferring that level of sense experience into a mode of offering, right? And so it's actually fine, that someone feels that inspiration for the deity and is attracted by the form of the deity. That's completely fine. I would say the only thing that's important is that we keep it in perspective, right? And we understand that I'm attracted to this form of the deity, but I also understand that I'm not seeing the original spiritual form of the deity, right? That Satchidananda, divine form of consciousness, eternity, bliss. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing something on the cover, right? And that we understand the limitations of what that is, right? And we also understand the importance of cultivating our understanding, going on with Shravan and Kirtan, right? That we're not just fixating on that one level of experience, right? So again, I think it comes back to that point about keeping things in perspective, right? That, this is what's helping me now, but I also understand there's something higher above, right? Sometimes in our exchanges with the devotees, we may not be able to be as humble as we would like to be or as we think we should be, but we may have awareness, this is where I am, but if I were a better Vaishnava, I would be behaving like this, There's this one comment in Srimad Bhagavatam, I remember sometimes, and as I recall, it's speaking about Maharaj Bharat, who there's a whole story with him. Many of you will remember how he was this great king and he had this life of luxury and he gave up everything to go live in the forest. And there was a whole saga with him. Then he ended up becoming kind of obsessed with the baby deer. And then he kind of spoiled his whole life of renunciation and had to take birth as a deer in his next life. And then after that, he was born as a Brahmin boy, and there's a whole story, right? But I always remember this one comment about him that when he was living as a king, he was living as a king, but he was always engaged in Krishna consciousness, actually, and one thing that's mentioned, but there are actually many wonderful things mentioned about him, but one thing I remember sometimes is how it mentions how he would go and give respects to his enemies. He would go and visit his enemies and embrace them and give them honor. And because he was so detached from the conception of friend and enemy, material good or bad. And so even like someone who was against him, like he had no thought of that. He had no consideration of that. And he would go and visit them and give love to them, right? Because he was on such a high level, completely beyond any ego, right? And so sometimes I think of that, and I may be in some condition, oh, this person's done this to me, or that person's done that to me, and I'm so disturbed by that, but I'll think, and maybe I'm not able to go and give them love or just be totally aloof to it, right? Maybe best I can do is just shut my mouth. like the old expression, if you can't see anything good, don't say anything at all. Like, that might be my level in that circumstance. Some of these old grandma expressions are very helpful. Like there's that other one, what is it? The golden rule: do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Right? I think maybe that comes in Christianity. But anyway, yeah, that might be our level, just keeping our mouth shut and not reacting and not getting angry. That might be the best we can do, right? If that. But in our mind, we can think, oh, if I was a greater Vaishnava, I will go and embrace that person and love them and so on, right? But if I were to artificially do that, that may actually be bad for me. I may have trauma, right? I may actually have personal trauma from how I've been treated by that devotee. And if I try to pretend that I don't have trauma, then I may get more trauma. I may get more messed up, right? So, we can say to a certain extent, we have to honor where we are right now. We can't pretend to be at a higher level than we are, right? So at least we cannot make things worse. Right? Sometimes I think like that, at least if I don't disturb anyone today, it was a good day. But I didn't disturb anyone, and it was a good day. And if I could make one person smile, oh, even better, then that's a wonderful day, right? That's my level, Sometimes I think, oh, at least I could brush my teeth today. That's really, I have days like that. Oh, I could brush my teeth today. Oh, I chanted one round of japa. Like, oh, it's a good day, It's a good day. And then I can spend the rest of my day thinking about how amazing all these great Vaishnavas are. Oh, how amazing Srila Govinda Maharaj is, how amazing Srila Sridhar Maharaj is, and so on, right? How glorious they are. And I'm here on my level doing whatever, but I'm appreciating who they are, and I'm worshiping who they are. And by their grace, something may come to me also. By my appreciation for these great Vaishnavas, then something may come to me, some drops of that. By my service to those great Vaishnavas, my remembrance of those great Vaishnavas, my attempts to glorify those great Vaishnavas and their great qualities, so then something may come to me. Some drop may come to me. Gurudev, in his humility, he would say, he said, I spent, 42 years with Guru Maharaj, and said, if even an insect spent so many years with such a great Vaishnava, they would get something, they would get something. And so, we of course, Gurudev saying that in his humility, but in our case, that may be true, right? That, oh, they are, this is the thing, right? We have to have faith in the power of their mercy. We have to have faith in the power of their mercy. If we don't, then we're faithless, right? Then we're doubting them. Right? If we really believe in them, then we have to believe in their power to transform us. We must be hopeful. That was something Srila Gurudev would talk about. Like, I'm always hopeful, not to be hopeless. Right? We must have hope in the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the Vaishnavas. That I'm living here on this level of consciousness, but by their grace, one day I can transcend, right? And we're just waiting. We're in the waiting game, right? As I said, we're waiting for mercy. We are beggars of mercy. I remember that was something that Shuddha Shava Prabhu, he was our dear friend, and many of you knew him, of course. And that was something he said to me once, and it just really made a deep impression on my heart. We are beggars of mercy. We are beggars of mercy. And our gurus are not analyzing so much what's our condition. Oh, how deep in the mud are you? Oh, look how messed up this one is. They're not doing that. They understand we're on the mercy boat. Right? Oh man, this one's really bad. They're not looking at us like that, They understand we're on the mercy boat. And so we are trying to get to a point of having more and more earnestness and desire and need, like actually feeling need for their mercy. Prana naraki bo'ado, that I cannot live if I don't get that mercy. Like we need to feel that. Right? We need to feel that. And maybe Krishna will make it easier for us to feel that sometimes, how much we are in need of their mercy. Right? So then it is our good fortune if we can face circumstances sometimes that will help us to realize our level of dependence, right? Our level of dependence. Need for grace, for mercy. That is we're living in this concrete world, but the real currency is grace, right? This so-called concrete world, it's all based on impermanence. It will all vanish. And there will come that moment when we really realize that what is really tangible is that divine mercy. Right? Ahaituki kripa. That is the real currency. And that ultimately behind everything is the will of the Lord. Everything is flowing by that indestructible force of the Lord's will. Right? Not because of any mundane power of this person or that person or this government or that government or whatever. Right? The flow of karma is happening on the surface, no doubt, but in the background, the Lord's will is behind, and he can override anything that he so chooses, if he so chooses. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, right? Yeah, he's seeing his apparently powerful father trying to kill him, but he understands, no, the Lord is behind everything. Oh, your Lord is here. He's inside of this pillar. Yes, he's inside of this pillar. And then Prahlad's divine vision and faith trumped all of his father's, concrete power in this world, right? In the background is the Lord's power. He can trump anything. He can override anything if he so chooses. So the devotees are living in that spirit. We're living on the Lord's mercy. We're praying for the Lord's mercy. And we have faith that his divine will is behind everything. Well, I'm very happy we can discuss these topics, by your inspiration for my own purification. And today is also a very special day. Just I won't keep you all too long, but just wanted to mention today is Jiva Goswami's Divine Appearance Day. He is known as the great protector of our Sampradaya. Jiva Dyer Abhirakshitam. Srila Sridhar Maharshi wrote this in his verse. And for those, most of you know who he is, but for those who don't, Jiva Goswami, he was a junior member of these 6 Goswamis, these famous 6 Goswamis, scholar saints of Vrindavan. And they were living in this world in the time of Mahaprabhu and also for some years after Mahaprabhu's departure. And these 6 Goswamis, they had the important mission of putting Mahaprabhu's teachings into writing. And Jiva Goswami, he was one of the junior members. He was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. But he was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur described him as the greatest philosopher ever known to humankind. He wrote something like, I'm trying to remember, like 400,000 Sanskrit verses in his explanation of the scriptures. And he was someone who, like, his role was to deal with the, you could say, the nerds in modern day talk. That was his area, to deal with the nerds, you know, like he was focused on the scholars, and he wrote so much. Wait, Scarlett's asking something. Oh, and I'm seeing everyone's comments here. Gopal Champat. Yes, that was Jiva Goswami. He wrote that. It was kind of a special project he wrote for a friend on the request of a friend of his. But yeah, so Jiva Goswami, he like particularly was addressing, because India has this very long tradition of scholarship, right? And so there's so many different types of scholars, philosophical perspectives, and Jiva Goswami like was like dealing with all of them, right? And addressing all of their different perspectives and showing the supremacy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Prema Dharma, right? And to what he was like a lawyer. Jiva Goswami was really like a lawyer who had like a very clear arguments on everything. And to the point where he actually did what is advised for everyone not to do, which is that he actually went and like in depth studied for years, like atheistic scriptures, which normally, you know, is not advised because, you know, can damage your own faith. But Jiva Goswami actually went to Varanasi, which is like the Mayavad capital, impersonal capital of India. And I think it was like 4 years, at least several years, he spent studying all of these philosophies that are against Vaishnavism, Krishna consciousness, in particular, Shankaracharya's interpretation. And in this way, like by knowing very well what were their arguments, he was able to show the other side and show, as I said, the supremacy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception, the conclusion of the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on. And there are so many wonderful stories about him. He was a fighter. He had a mood of a fighter. Very different from Rup and Sanatan, his uncles, who were always extremely humble. But he showed an arrogance that was in service, actually, a different type of humility. And as I said, Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes him as a protector. He had this mood of a protector of Mahaprabhu's lineage. So today is his divine appearance day. And also it is Vamana Dev's appearance day, one of the Vishnu avatars. He appears in the form of this charming dwarf boy, beautiful dwarf boy, in order to reclaim all the territory that was taken control by the asuras, by the demons. And there's that very charming story. I think most of you are familiar, right? He comes in this very unassuming form of this cute little dwarf boy, and he comes. There's this big fire sacrifice going on, and Bali Maharaj is actually a great saint and Vaishnava, but he's somehow born into the demon lineage. He's actually the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he makes that interesting point, how Hiranyakashipu was a demon, his son Prahlad was a devotee, then Prahlad's son was a demon, and then his son was a devotee, Bali Maharaj, right? And so anyway, there's that pastime, Bali Maharaj is performing this big yagya, fire sacrifice. And as a part of that, you're supposed to give in charity to the Brahmins. And so Vamana Dev comes at this crucial moment, and he's looking all innocent and unassuming, very charming little boy. And he tells Bali Maharaj, oh, I just want 3 steps of land. Just 3 steps of land. And meanwhile, Bali Maharaj's guru, or so-called guru, he can recognize what's really going on, and he warns Bali Maharaj, oh no, this is actually Vishnu in disguise. He's coming to, you know, screw you over, you know, watch out. But Bali Maharaj, you know, he's just surrendered actually, and anyway, he tells he tells Vamana in the beginning, oh, only 3 steps of land. I can give you whatever you want. I can give you your own country or your own island, you know. And there's many beautiful instructions. One nice thing Vamana Dev says is he says that one should never desire more than what they need. One should only desire what they need to maintain themselves, not more, not less, you know. So he says, if I ask for like a big country, then I'll never be satisfied. You know, whatever I get, I'll never be satisfied. All I need is 3 steps of land. That's all, you know. And there are many funny things that happen. Then the guru, Shukracharya, he's like desperate to stop this. And he actually takes on this very tiny form. And because it's part of all these rituals, there's a point, it's called like the sankalpa, right? When you make this vow, part of it is like you pour water from this special water pot, like to consecrate the agreement. And then at a certain point, Shukracharya, he like takes on this tiny form, he like goes in and blocks up the spout so the water can't come out. And then Vamana Dev like pokes his finger in there and pokes out an eye of Shukracharya like that. But anyhow, then finally this agreement is made, is sealed, and then Vamana Dev expands into this huge form. And in 2 steps, he covers everything, the lower planets, the middle planets, the upper planets, you know, all the planets within that Brahmanda and that whole universal system. And then Vamana Dev is like accusing Bali Maharaj, hey, you told me I had 3 steps. Where do I put my 3rd step? And then Bali Maharaj, and this is what is the beautiful moment of this pastime, then Bali Maharaj says, oh my Lord, you can put your 3rd step on my head, right? And so in other words, like offering himself, right? He offered all that he owned and then he gave himself. And this is really the real meaning of surrender, right? To offer ourselves. And so this is the Atma Nivedanam, right? Full self-surrender. This is the real purport of this Leela with Vamana Dev and Bali Maharaj. So we're happy to remember these divine pastimes on this day. So I'll stop there. Very, very happy to meet with all of you. And I don't know if anyone wants to throw in anything at the end, or maybe has a short question or comment or anything, you know, opening up the board here. Where are you, Nadia? Are you in Portugal right now?
Yes, Vishaka Didi, I'm here. And I even more think of your father than even before. Because, you know, I had a host here, like American man who was hosting me as a refugee, but he unexpectedly changed his mind. Like last week, he said to me to move out. And I'm looking for, I told you I'm looking for property to buy, and but I'm not ready to do it in the short term. I need like to look it properly. So as you told on this Zoom, we are all going through some health or living issues. So I'm going through living issue, but I'm thinking constantly maybe I will visit your father, and if he will agree, I will spend some time there with him.
Oh, he'll be happy to have you there, definitely. He'll be happy, no doubt.
Okay. And I hope he has some, I remember last year, this time he had olive trees, somebody to collect that, and I would like to do anything for him there. Yes.
Oh, that sounds very nice.
Yeah, but I'm here and I don't know. I feel here like that Gurudev sent me here, and that my heart feels here like it's home. Like I don't know how to explain that, this geographical place. So I'm trying to settle here.
Very nice, very nice. I'm sure everything will be very fruitful by your sincere desire.
Jai Gurudev.
All right. Well, I'll close here. Thank you, Ati Sanji, for hosting, and thank you all for your wonderful association and for keeping me engaged in some some remembrance of the Lord and the Vaishnavas and their divine message. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Raksha Shikar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Vamana Dev Avirbhav Mahamahotsav Ki Jai, Shri Jiva Goswami Prabhu Avirbhav Mahamahotsav Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premananda. Hari Bol.